All right, welcome everyone to the 4 steps to attracting high paying clients that you love to work with. My name is Sean Smith. That's me there on the screen. I have been a speaker and trainer for over 10 years now. And recently, I've really developed this passion around helping coaches specifically build their business. And I never really started out to be any sort of coach's coach or anything like that. I just started my own coaching business. I kind of backed into it really. I never decided I wanted to be a coach, but I had a very transformational experience with a coach many years ago. And I just decided if I can do that, like that was so cool. If I can do that and I can make money at it and I can do this full time, then I'm gonna do that, right? So that's about as much forethought as I had. But I just got into ignorant action and I took a bunch of steps and made a lot of mistakes and made a lot of things happen and ultimately made it work. And then I'd say about 6 years ago, I started just networking, going to a bunch of different seminars and seeing a lot of other people, meeting people that wanted to also become coaches. And I saw a lot of coaches doing things that I could tell was going to be the wrong thing, doing things that I knew was going to lead them down the wrong path, or was going to be painful, or was going to cost them a lot of money, etc. So I just developed this passion to help coaches, primarily new coaches, build this business because if you want to be a coach, if you have inside the desire to help people, and the challenge is that is so oppositional to building a business most of the time. The energy that it takes that to cause somebody to want to really serve the planet or help people improve their life in one way, shape, or form, the energy that it takes to do that is like the other end of the spectrum from the energy that it takes to want to sell and market and build a business. So it's very rare that people have both of those pieces. Actually, I've never seen anybody that has both of those pieces as they come into this coaching industry. You might see somebody that builds the second piece, like they show up with one of them and then builds the other muscle, but very rarely do people come with both of those things together. That's why, in my opinion, that's why most coaches really struggle when it comes to building a business, because those muscles that it takes to build a business don't really jive well with people that just want to help. And I really went through that whole thing as well early in my career. I didn't like to sell. I didn't want to sell. I didn't want to market. I just wanted to help. But I would say I was one of those people that just built the muscle of business growth. And it was because I wanted to serve more people. So, really, you can build that muscle from your service disposition if you do it the right way. So, in this webinar, we're going to talk about the 4 steps that I've identified that are incredibly important to attract high paying clients. And I can tell you from the get go, it's not what any of you will probably think it is. And it's probably not what you've heard anybody else teach as far as attracting clients. And I'm going to explain all of that, the why behind all of that. But in this webinar, I just want to be really blunt and really honest, at the risk of sounding like I'm a buzzkill. I don't want to be a buzzkill for any of you. I don't want to take any air out of your sails, but I do want to be honest and I want to speak from my experience, because a lot of coaches get into this business, they get their hopes really high, and because they have these false expectations, then when it doesn't work the way they want it to work, when the things that they're being taught don't create 6 figures of a launch, or you don't get your first client right away, then those false expectations create disappointment, and that disappointment is what causes a lot of people to really struggle. So on this webinar, actually, before I forget, you should have in your control panel a handout. There's a little section that says handout, so you can grab that section or grab that handout and follow along as I go through my piece here. And let's see, let me do this. Let me take a quick poll just to see how many of you are coaches, or if you are just wanting to become a coach. So there's a short poll that I just launched. It should show up on your screen, and it's very simple. How long have you been a coach? If you're not a coach yet and you want to be a coach, that's great. You're in the right place. If you've been a coach less than 2 years, that's fantastic. 2 to 5, 5 to 10, or over 10 years. I just want to know who's on the line so I can, better tailor my examples to you as best I can. So just click in one of those options, one of those bullets there. I'm going to give you another 10 to 15 seconds to answer. And if you're not a coach and you want to be a coach, that's really exciting to me, right? Because that means that I mean, regardless of whether unless you've been a coach longer than I have, then regardless, wherever you are on those first four radial bullets, options, then like you're an earlier version of me, and I get really excited about that. So perfect. All right, most people answered, and this is interesting. We have nobody on the line that's not a coach yet, and at least that answered the poll. And so we got looks like 2/3 are less than 2 years, and 1/3 is 2 to 5 years. All right, perfect. So you all have some level of experience coaching. And that could mean that you've got paying clients already, or it could mean that you've just been, getting certifications and sort of warming up and what have you. But first of all, I honor you for that. I honor you for getting into this business, because this can be a very lucrative and a very fulfilling business. It's one where you can create your own schedule. It's one where you can charge as much as you want. There are some coaches charging $50 an hour, 75, 100, several $100s an hour. I've paid two separate coaches $2,500 an hour, and both of them gave me great value for what I was investing. And compared to the going rate out there, if you just take a look at hourly rates, although there's much more to that when you run a business, obviously, but you can generate some serious money, and you can also make a very big impact in the world. But the problem is, as I was saying earlier, most coaches get into this to change lives, but most of them fail. And a lot of that is an internal game. It's the energy mismatch that I was talking about. A lot of them is because they don't really create the systems that they need. They don't have the marketing mindset. They don't ever get help. And the sad thing is that their message dies inside of them. And what I think about is, if you have a message inside of you and you don't ever get it out, then that means the people who are waiting for you out there, who I call your seekers, they don't ever get the help that they could otherwise get if you figured this out and got your message out there, right? And ultimately what most people do is they quit, and they lick their wounds, they retreat, they feel bad about themselves, maybe they go back to what they were doing before, and overall it's just not a good experience. And again, I don't want to sound like, the buzzkill, but I also want to be very real so that you can avoid that. If you're really committed to creating a coaching business, then you have to know what the pitfalls are. You have to know the biggest mistakes to avoid. And I've got a list of 5 biggest reasons that I've seen why most coaches fail. And number 5, this is in order of importance backwards, right? So in reverse order, number 5 is a lack of systems and framework to build upon, to create automatic systems to scale your business. And again, part of that is because most coaches don't have the business mindset. Number 4 is a lack of clarity in your industry, in your competitors, with who your seeker is. Number 3 is a lack of tools, like coaching tools and coaching exercises that you can use, because if you don't have the tools and the exercises, then you're never going to get to this piece, number 2 here, that coaching mastery, right? This industry is unique in that you've got to have a level of mastery in order for people to trust you enough to hire you to help them change their life, right? Now, there are plenty of industries out there where mastery is required. You look at doctors, lawyers, any of the professional kind of industries where people have to get highly educated and then continue their education on a yearly basis, or bi-yearly or whatever. It's really important that you stay in the game and you keep sharpening your tools. you keep focusing on mastery and not just as a coach, but as a student of the industry as well. See, here's my judgment of the coaching industry. And I say this, even though it's going to sound like a negative judgment, it's going to sound like I'm all jaded and stuff. But I say this from a place of love and hope, even though it probably won't sound like it. This industry is somewhat dirty. And the reason I say the industry is dirty is because we have a lot of coaches that, because you don't, like, there's no board out there that says you have to prove that you're a good coach. You have to pass this exam. You have to get certified by this one organization. There's nothing like that out there. It's not like therapy or counseling or being a nurse. It's not like any of those kinds of professional industries where you have to prove your competency before you can open the doors. And that's somewhat good and somewhat bad. I would say it's good because a lot of people can just get in and become a coach, and some people can get help. But for the most part, it's bad because there are too many coaches that are opening their doors too soon. And if you try to open your doors too soon, it's going to be a huge mistake. I mean, it's really like trying to drive before you, not just before you have a license, but before you've learned how to drive, because some people have a license and they don't even know how to drive, right? So the piece here is, do you have the competency to be a good coach? And if you have the competency, then you can avoid this biggest mistake, number one, which is the lack of certainty and the lack of confidence. That's why I say you should get certified. That's why I say you should master your coaching skills, because it'll give you an air about you that creates trust, creates rapport, is magnetic for people, and they will want to follow you. But if you haven't bought yourself yet, if you haven't bought into your own abilities, you will not have the certainty that's required to be a good coach and to attract clients, especially high paying clients, right? If you want the best kinds of clients, well, the best kinds of clients are only attracted to coaches that have certainty. And so if you don't have that yet in your body, in your energy, in your language, then the worst thing you can do is try to market yourself. The worst thing you can do is go out and try to get clients. Now, I'm also not saying that I want you to stick around for 5 years and get 19 certifications before you go out and try to help people. So I don't want you to think that that's my message either. But you've got to have this level of confidence and certainty before you really go out to the market. Otherwise, you're going to lose money. You could lose credibility. You could lose reputation. You could really be damaged emotionally. And that's not fun for anybody. And those mistakes are really difficult to recover from. So before I get into the biggest mistakes I made, I'm going to try to give you the 60-second version of my story in coaching. I told you earlier that I was ignorance on fire. I just took a lot of ignorant action in the beginning. It took me about 6 to 8 months before I found my clicking point. And this is 6 to 8 months of a lot of action. And in the first 6 to 8 months, we generated about $30,000 or $40,000, which I was incredibly happy with. But then we found the clicking point. And from month 8 to about month 18, so the last 10 months of my first year and a half in business, we generated about $300,000 in revenue. That's when it all clicked. That's when I found the systems, the scalability, and all of that. And then I made the mistake of I changed a bunch of stuff. I'll explain here in a moment on the screen what I did, but I made a bunch of mistakes. And over the next 18 months, our business imploded. It plummeted. And because of that, I did what I said earlier. I started to lick my wounds. I retreated. We ended up filing bankruptcy. So the second 18 months of my business was a disaster. But I had the unique experience of having the first 18 months be really good and the second 18 months be really bad. And because I already had the first 18 months of success, I could go back to what I knew worked. And so what I did is I sort of overlaid these two 18-month time periods, and I realized where I messed up. But see, most coaches, their first 18 months are like my second 18 months. And because of that, they don't have a way to recover. They don't have a time period where they were incredibly successful so that they can go back to that. And that's what I want to help you avoid. So I want to teach you the mistakes that I made that created the second 18 months, because that's when I became a good coach for coaches. That's when I actually became a good business coach. That's when I learned the most about business, is during my fall, during the second 18 months. So some of the mistakes that I made is I stopped serving an individual seeker. I tried to help a bunch of people at once, which is a huge mistake. I changed way too many variables at one time in my business. We changed our branding, we changed our marketing, we changed our programs, we changed our prices, we changed way too many things. And then when my income took a nosedive, I started to unplug from all the things that got me there. I took, I unplugged from my coaches. I unplugged from my mastermind groups. I unplugged from the coaching programs, like the group programs that I was in. I fired all those people because I was trying to plug the holes in the leaking boat. And what I didn't realize until afterwards is, because I was only trying to plug the holes in the leaking boat, I stopped rowing. And then all that happened, even as I was plugging the holes, my boat just kept sinking. And so I don't want you to ever think that you can do this thing alone. I've never seen anybody that's been able to do this alone. And then the last thing I did, which what I alluded to a moment ago, is I went into this new market totally unprepared. I didn't have the certainty. I didn't have the confidence in this new market. Even though I had it before, in my first 18 months, I didn't have it in the new market. And so that's how I know that when you market too early, when you're not prepared, it's going to be disastrous. Now, what I did do in the first 18 months, and then after, we started to right the ship again, right? So after year 3, what I did do before and after the crash is I was heavily investing in my skills. And that's the coaching mastery part that I was talking about earlier. I was heavily involved in Jack Canfield's Train the Trainer program. I took 3 weeks back to back to back, 21 straight days of neurolinguistic programming certification. I was in tons of personal growth seminars. I was constantly working on myself. I was lit up with what I was learning about myself. And in doing that, I could have a lot of confidence and certainty in teaching other people what I had already gone through. A lot of coaches only do minimal amounts of work on themselves, and then they can only help people to a certain extent. If you want to be able to help as many people as you possibly can, do as much work on yourself as you possibly can so you can relate to them and they can relate to you. So I invested heavily in my skill set, and then I also invested a lot in support. I hired coaches before, and then I rehired coaches afterwards. I realized, for me, that was the single most important thing that caused me to take a nosedive and caused me to get back out of the nosedive. Is I plugged into the confidence that other people had that I didn't have at the time. I got back into mastermind groups and I built my coaches network. I was able to talk to other people who'd gone through similar things that I had been through, and I got more ideas from them. And that kind of support is what it takes to really pick yourself back up during the tough days and help you avoid the mistakes that you might otherwise make. So those were the mistakes that I made. That was the journey that I've taken. I got a question from, I don't know when you asked this question, David. It says, what about the ICF, International Coaching Federation? So I imagine you asked that question when I was talking about, a board. The International Coaching Federation is as close to that board that I was talking about, like the law, or not the law, but the bar exam as a lawyer, or whatever the boards are called for you to be able to be certified as a doctor or as a therapist or as a counselor. Before you can open your doors, many professional organizations have basically like a legal board, and they can shut you down. So the difference with ICF, which is as close to a coaching board as possible, is there's no legality behind it. Nobody can come shut you down, as far as I know. Nobody can come shut you down if you're coaching people without being certified by the International Coaching Federation. Now, there are lots of other organizations. There are tons of companies or individuals that give certifications. I give certifications. I know a lot of people that give certifications, and there's no legal board that could say, since you're not certified by ICF, or there's a bunch of different ones out there, and I'm blanking on some of the bigger ones. The International Coaching Federation. There's a one called Coachville. So there's several organizations out there, but there's no legality behind them. So you can't be shut down by not going through them, right? I personally didn't go through International Coaching Federation, so I can't speak from an experiential standpoint, and I can't compare them to anybody else. I can only tell you, what my experience is through my certification, what I've been doing ever since. And that's part of the reason, David, and all of you, that I say that the industry is somewhat dirty, is because there's all these different ways to get in, and there's really no generalized curriculum, right? So there's a part of me that hopes that generalized curriculum comes together, but there's also a part of me that knows that's going to be pretty much impossible. It's not like we're going to teach algebra, because there's really only certain chapters of algebra. And whether you're in Asia or Africa or the United States or Antarctica or Pluto, algebra is algebra. That's not the case with personal development. There are so many different curricula out there, so many different skill sets, and people have different experiences. There's neurolinguistic programming that I'll talk about. There's tapping. There's just traditional coaching. There's how to set goals. I mean, there's so much out there that I don't think it's possible for somebody to come together and say, this is the agreed upon curriculum that everybody needs to follow, or everybody needs to get certified in before you become a coach, right? There is that ability in the legal world, in medicine, in therapy and counseling to some extent, from my knowledge, but I don't see it happening. I hope it happens to address the problem of a lot of people just jumping out there before they're ready. And if we had that kind of board, then more people would have the confidence and the certainty that I was saying that most coaches just simply don't have. So I appreciate that question. And if you guys do have questions throughout, go ahead and ask them. So before I get into these 4 steps, I'm going to launch another poll here. Let's see. I'm going to ask this one. What are the biggest challenges you have in your business? I've already talked about confidence. I talked a little bit about sales and marketing and systems. I didn't really talk about how to identify your target audience, but I talked about the importance of that a little bit. So what would you say are the biggest challenges you have in your business? And you can choose more than one of these things if you want. Confidence, sales and marketing, systems, identifying your target audience, or other. I'll give about 30 seconds more for you to answer this poll. And again, this really helps me know sort of who's on the line and what challenges you guys are having, and I can tailor some of my responses or examples to who's on the line. All right, so this is interesting. Every single one of you said sales and marketing. And of course, there are many facets to sales and marketing. And then a few of you said, whoops, I don't think you need to see my my text messages. I hit the wrong icon there. A few of you said confidence, a few of you said systems, a few of you said identifying your target audience. And there's all kinds of topics that you got to understand. I mean, there's so many different facets when it comes to businesses, obviously, that I probably could have listed 12 different things, and pretty much everybody would have been able to say, yeah, let me just take all of them, right? But sales and marketing, every single one of you said that's one of your biggest challenges. And oh man, I mean, I could go on and on. That's not going to be the focus of this webinar necessarily, but let me just say this from a high level perspective. You have to have constant and consistent sales and marketing. Most coaches just simply don't market enough. If you were to track the amount of time you spend in your business, and then we were to do, some kind of pie chart, or just focus on how much time are you actually marketing your business, right? in my experience personally, as well as in my coaching with other coaches, I would say that most coaches probably actually market their business less than, I'd say, 5% of the time, less than 10% of the time tops. The other times they're doing administration stuff, working on websites. They might be getting ready to get ready to get ready to get ready, but they never actually pull the trigger enough, right? Many years ago, I used to track the how I was spending my time, and I had like three different categories. One of them was admin. One of them, I forget the name, but the other one was swinging the bat. I was a baseball player for most of my life, and swinging the bat, like if you don't swing the bat, you can't get a hit. And I was tracking how many times I would send out an email that could actually bring in revenue, or I would do a video with some kind of call to action that would actually bring in revenue. And if you are honest with yourself and you were to take a look at the activities that you're doing, most of you, if you're like the majority of the coaching industry, most of you would see that the times that you're actually doing anything that could actually bring in revenue is very, very small. And that's just the reality. That's one of the reasons why coaches really struggle, is because they don't market enough, right? It's not enough to just be on social media and do a bunch of posts and get a bunch of likes and get a bunch of fans. At some point in time, you actually have to offer them something, right? You have to have a call to action. You have to get them on your email list. You actually have to do a webinar or a teleseminar or a Periscope or a Hangout or whatever. You have to do something, get them on the phone and offer them your programs. So I can tell most of you, just by this is the way that the entire industry works primarily, I can tell you that you're just simply not marketing enough. People don't have the opportunity to pay you enough. But what you see is, it might feel like you're working so much in your business, and it might feel like you're just looking at the results and you realize that you're not getting the clients and you're not bringing in the money, and you just go, wow, I'm working so hard but I'm not bringing in any money. You've got to dig down deep and see what activities you're actually doing. And you basically, we could chunk it down to two kinds of activities. You've got revenue generating activities, and then you've got everything else, right? And we'll just call everything else administrative activities, although not everything necessarily falls under admin. Let's call it management activities, right? It could be admin, it could be getting websites ready, it could be writing copy, like everything. Even if it's getting ready to make money, if it's not actually pulling the trigger, swinging the bat, taking a shot, then it's not a revenue generating activity. And if you track, I can almost guarantee you that the percentage of time that you spend in revenue generating activities is in the single digits. I can virtually promise you, if you're struggling with sales and marketing, right? So let me get into these 4 steps. And I want you to listen to everything that I say from this point forward through your challenges, right? Confident sales and marketing systems, identifying your target audience, because I really want you to get something out of this webinar that you can apply to yourself. So I want you to see through your filters and check to see, like in these 4 steps, do you have clarity in all of these 4 steps? Where are the holes that you really need to fill? So the first one, and remember I said this is not going to be probably like anything that you would have guessed it was, right? But this is my experience. The first one is you need clarity in yourself. And I mean who you are. Where have you come from? What's your journey been like up until now? What could you actually teach people? What's that sweet spot? What could you get up in front of a crowd with no doubt whatsoever you could teach them this with 100% confidence? That's what you should probably start marketing first, right? I mean, we got to make sure that it's something that people will buy, but most people try to teach things that they actually don't have a whole lot of confidence in because they haven't taken the self-assessment. They haven't taken an inventory of who they are and what value can they bring to the world. The second one I've already mentioned several times is your seeker. Who is that person that's out there seeking the knowledge that you have from number 1, right? Who's out there seeking that knowledge right now? Most businesses identify a target client or an ideal client, or you might hear it called an avatar or an ideal niche. There are many different labels for basically the same thing, but most businesses and most coaches identify this. Even if they identify a single person, it's like they put a target on that person's back, and then they go after him. They try to run him down. They shoot for him, right? And that's the wrong kind of energy. I don't want you to feel like you're chasing anybody down. You got to rope them like cattle. I want you to just get in front of people who are already foaming at the mouth for what you have. And that is such an easier task than to chase people down, rope their legs, and convince them that they need what you have. That is very, very difficult. It's the wrong kind of energy. And that's not attraction, right? That's chasing. So when you have clarity in yourself and then you have clarity in your seeker, now you can really focus on your skill set. What do you need to provide the right answers to that seeker based on who you are? And that skill set should be somewhat unique to you, but it really has to apply to your seeker. If you want to help certain people do certain things, you better have the skill set that can help those people do those things. If you don't have the skill set and you don't have the confidence and certainty, then it's going to be a mismatch. You're going to be found out, or you're going to have the doubt that won't create the trust and won't create the magnetism, and it's just not going to work. These three things are the most important foundational pieces that will give you traction, give you confidence, give you the right energy in your coaching business. And if you notice, we haven't started to market at all yet. This is below the soil kind of stuff, right? We haven't even started to market yet. You're becoming marketable. We got to work on you before you are marketable, right? Or I'm sorry, let me say this. Let me back up. We got to work on you to become marketable before you start marketing. And then number 4 is marketing. Number 4 is your solutions. Let's look at what programs you want to offer. We got to title those programs properly. We got to price them properly. And all of those things in number 4 are based on what you find and what you create in 1, 2, and 3. Now, I'll tell you, this is not a sexy list of the 4 things that you've got to do. It's not a sexy list. You can find a bunch of people, and I'm not trying to disparage anybody, but you can find a bunch of people that go, in order to attract clients, you've got to get a squeeze page up, you've got to put ads out there, you've got to have an offer, and then you've got to get them on the phone, or you've got to have an email, or you got to drive them to a sales page. Right. They're talking to you in solutions right there, number 4. So there might be steps within the solutions, but if you don't have clarity in 1, 2, and 3, it doesn't matter what you learn in number 4. You can take this 7-figure launch blueprint that somebody else has created a $10 million launch with, and you can apply it to your niche market. And if you don't have clarity in 1, 2, and 3, your launch will suffer. Because it doesn't matter about the marketing blueprint that you follow if you don't have the magnetism, if you don't have the right energy in 1, 2, and 3. For the coaching industry, it doesn't matter. Now, if you want to sell physical products on Amazon, you want to sell widgets, you want to just get people into a funnel and buy stuff on eBay, that's totally fine. That's different. I don't have anything bad to say about that, but that's not coaching. That's not transformational coaching. So if you want to be a transformational coach, you better have 1, 2, and 3 down. Otherwise, you can be the best in the business with number 4. And the absolute best you can do is get people one time, and then it'll be disastrous from there. So for the rest of this conversation, I'm going to focus on number 3. I'm going to focus on skills, because I believe that in the coaching industry, we jump through skills too quickly. There's not enough people, in my complete biased judgment, there's not enough people that are great coaches. And one of the best ways to build a good business is to be a great coach. I'd rather you be a great coach first before you learn a thing about marketing, and then learn how to market yourself as a great coach, than the opposite way around. Don't become a great marketer and then at some point in time go, yeah, maybe I'll develop my coaching skills when I need them. No, you need them before you go to market. And that is specific to the coaching industry. That does not necessarily relate to other industries, but for the coaching industry, it absolutely does. So when it comes to coaching, there's basically two forms of coaching. Both of them are completely okay. I just focus on one of them because that's what I do, right? There's above the surface coaching, and then there's the below the surface coaching. Above the surface coaching is basically behavior based. It's how to information. It could be how to flip houses in real estate. It could be how to become a real estate agent. It could be how to lose weight. It could be how to make money in the stock market. That's behavior only kind of coaching. And that's totally legitimate, completely valid. It's just not what I am passionate about. What I am passionate about is breakthrough coaching or transformational coaching. I'm passionate about helping people experience what I experienced in my life 12 years ago. In my life, I had a transformation where I came home and my wife barely recognized me. She said, "What happened to you?" My friends started asking me, "What happened? What did I do? What am I on? And how can they get some?" I had a transformational experience at a seminar, and my entire experience on this planet shifted. I became happier. I started to make a lot of money. My everything was different. And and I think we overuse the word breakthrough. It's kind of like the word love. I think it's overused and it kind of has become diluted a little bit. But what I experienced was an absolute, true 100% breakthrough of the ceiling that I had placed on myself. And it was an internal experience. Because I had that experience, I wanted to teach. I wanted to first learn how to do it, and then I wanted to show up for other people the way that that coach showed up for me. So that's the path that I've chosen. No disrespect to anybody else who stays above water. That's totally fine. That's just not what I get passionate about. What I'm passionate about is below the water, and that's that iceberg right there on the screen. Most of the iceberg and most of your power as a human being is below the surface. It's in your perception of the world, your perception of yourself. It's in the attitudes that you choose. It's in the values that you have, the beliefs that you have, the drivers that you have that determine all of your decisions. That's what breakthrough coaching is really about, transformational coaching. And I'm going to dive deep into transformational coaching from this point forward for the rest of this webinar, because that's what I get lit up about, right? And if you want to be a transformational agent, if you literally want to be able to help people change their lives fundamentally and foundationally, then buckle up, because transformational coaching is something that you really got to dive into. Now, the most profitable and the most powerful trait as a transformational coach is actually something that all of us have. It's just curiosity. Most people don't give themselves permission to be curious anymore, because it's generally sort of beaten out of us as we grow, as we go through school, as our parents tell us to stop asking them questions, as our teachers tell us to stop asking questions, as kids laugh when we ask quote unquote stupid questions. We learn that it's not okay to be curious anymore, which is a shame, because curiosity is the only way that you'll ever learn. You can't learn anything about life, anything about this planet, without being curious. So it's sad to me that a lot of human beings have their curiosity beaten out of them. As a coach, you've got to really stand in your curiosity, because whoever the client is, they have all the answers. We have to use our curiosity to get inside of their being, to get inside of their perceptions, and help them find the answers that they have. Now, I mentioned neuro-linguistic programming a couple times, and I want to tell you a little bit about what NLP coaching is. Many of you might have heard NLP. Some people really understand it. Some people completely misunderstand it. But my breakthrough came at the hands of somebody who was trained in neuro-linguistic programming. So when I called him later, or I emailed him later and said, "What did you do to me, and how do I get some of that? How do I become skilled like that?" He just said, "It's called neuro-linguistic programming. Go to this guy, get certified," and I just followed him. Right? So I just, by referral, basically, I asked no questions. I didn't compare that program to anybody else. I just followed because that's what I experienced. And so for my money, Neurolinguistic programming is the most powerful set of breakthrough tools on the planet, and it's because you can use it to focus internally or focus externally. You can use it to shift values and beliefs and all the stuff with the inner game, or you can use it to just focus on setting goals or just focus on losing weight, any of the behavior kind of stuff as well. So for my money, it really, the curriculum runs the gamut as far as how you can use it in life. There's nothing that I've ever seen that cannot be addressed and solved with neurolinguistic programming. It can just handle anything and everything, and I've seen it all in my 10 years of experience. It'll also give you distinction in your market because you'll speak differently, you'll understand problems differently when you really truly have a grasp on human behavior and how the brain works and how the brain learns. You're going to be able to attract those seekers differently because you're going to use language, or you're going to be able to give examples that they've never heard before. And it makes a lot more sense, especially compared to everybody else that's just talking about the above the surface stuff. Like, you just need to do this, this, and that. Well, you're going to speak to them differently with a different understanding when you really grasp human behavior at a deeper level. So I just want to teach a few things about human behavior and how the brain actually works and how the brain learns. There are three main ways that the brain, or three things that the brain does with information that it takes in. Now, the human brain is taking in billions of bits of information all the time, right? I think it's like, I think it's I forget what the number is, but it's hundreds of thousands or maybe even millions, I think, like every second or every minute or something like that. Forgive me for not remembering that number, but it's mind-blowing how many actual bits of information the human brain can pay attention to. But it deletes most of them. And if it didn't delete most of them, then we would all just be walking around in a state of constant overwhelm because we don't know what to pay attention to. So thankfully, the brain deletes almost all the information that it has access to, so that it'll only give you what it thinks you want to see, right? And it'll delete everything else. The other thing that it does is it distorts information, and it gives you also what it thinks you want to see, but sometimes it gets, I would say it kind of cuts corners a little bit. And if you, like, for instance, let's say that you have this belief and you have a story that all men are dogs, all men are liars, right? Your brain will distort information as it relates to men so that it matches what your story is. And so basically your brain will look for and find what you're trying to prove to be true. And that's why you can have two people look at the same exact thing and get completely different outcomes, completely different understandings and experiences, because we're all distorting the information to match what we want the information to be. And that can be good or it can be bad, right? Especially when it's attached to the third thing here, generalization. The brain is it's an organizing mechanism, right? It wants to organize the information, and it wants to categorize as fast as it can everything that comes into it. So it'll categorize anything that looks like a box and has four wheels. It'll categorize that as a vehicle, and you don't have to learn that vehicle every time you see one of those things. You can generalize that all things that kind of roughly look like that are probably cars, or anything that kind of looks like it has a flat surface and four legs is probably a chair. You don't have to learn everything over and over again. But the downside to that is we tend to overgeneralize things when it comes to sabotage, when it comes to our limiting beliefs and our negativity. We overgeneralize things, and then we decide that, all women can't be trusted, or all police are jerks, or all people of a certain race are a certain way, right? We overgeneralize these things, and then it becomes limitation. But you have to understand how the brain actually operates in order for you to be a transformational force for other people. If you don't get how the brain learns, and you don't understand these 5 meaning filters, then you're just going to go out there and tell people what to do, but you're not going to really be setting them up to succeed, because you're going against the way their brain actually works, right? You can see a picture of me there. I do this skit where I put all these jumpsuits on and I put a bunch of different sunglasses on. And the point is, we walk around life with all these different perspectives and all these different lenses that we're looking through. And the 5 main lenses that we're looking through are our values, which is what's important to us, the beliefs that we have about ourselves, the world, other people, the memories that we have in life. Those are that's one of our most powerful filters. The decisions that we've ever made, and meta programs. Meta programs is basically the way that we're oriented at a deep unconscious level. Like some people are oriented to really be attracted to success, and other people are oriented to be attracted to only security. Some people are oriented toward new and exciting things, and other people are oriented to keeping things the same all the time. And they don't like anything, they don't like changes, they don't like surprises, right? We're oriented in about 30 different ways, and we call those meta programs. So if you have a client and you understand how the brain works, and you know that they're trying to lose weight, and you just tell them to eat less and exercise more, but you don't help them understand what their values are, you don't help them see their weight through the decisions that they've made, or you don't help set their sails properly according to their meta programs, then all you can do is just be another version of just do this, right? And they probably won't succeed because they've been following this just do this approach for years and years and years and years. That's why I say you can have distinction in the market when you really truly deeply understand human behavior. And that's what NLP teaches us. Now, in my experience over the last 12 years, I've developed this framework for coaching, and I call it the IGNITE framework. It's an acronym. So the I stands for inquire and identify. You want to inquire about the problem. You want to identify with your client. You're not trying to fix them. You're trying to understand their model of the world. Until you understand somebody's model of the world, you can't appropriately help them. You got to understand how they see things in order to help them shift the way they see things. The G is to get permission and leverage. You cannot coach without permission, and nobody's going to make a change in their life if there's no leverage. So you have to have those two things before you even start any of the coaching. The N stands for new outcomes. Make sure you identify from the client's perspective what the new outcome needs to be, and then you can get into the actual transformational work, which I just refer to as the inner work. I'm going to go into that a little bit later, so I won't explain that too deeply now. The T stands for test and tweak. Once you do whatever work you do, have them do exercises and what have you, you got to test to see if it worked. And if it didn't work, then you got to tweak something. Maybe you do another exercise, maybe you set them up in a different way, but you ultimately have to make sure that the exercise that you're doing, the path they're walking, works. And then the E stands for empower them to succeed. If we don't empower our clients to succeed, then what's the point, right? So I'm going to get into a couple of these pieces of the framework, just not at a very deep level, but just so that you understand the foundation of transformational coaching. One of the really important pieces of foundational coaching, or transformational coaching rather, is rapport. You've got to create rapport. And rapport is not just people like you. Rapport is having a state of trust and responsiveness. When you're in rapport with the client, there's nothing you cannot do. When you're not in rapport with the client, it's very difficult to have anything that you can do with them, meaning they just won't follow you or they won't get it. So you've got to have this state of connection in rapport. And there's 3 main components of this. Number 1, you've got to be able to notice your own experience without judging it. So you notice that you might have butterflies in your stomach, but you don't judge that you're nervous or that you're scared. Right? You notice that your body is slouching down a little bit, but you don't put any kind of negative judgment on it. The second thing is you do the exact same thing with them, with the client. Notice their experience. You might notice that the corners of their mouths turned up a little bit into a shape that we generally call a smile, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're happy. They might be hiding something. They might be using their smile to make sure that you don't go any deeper, right? Or you might notice when their breathing slows down, or you might notice that their energy just dropped to the center of their body. You might notice that their tonality completely changed. Those are all really important things to pay attention to, but not to judge as a coach. And then finally, and these 2 things, the noticing helps you do this third one, but you've got to just be there. be present, sit in the connection that you have with this other human being, and then you can help them change their life. But if you're not present with them, you not only can you not coach them, but I think it's irresponsible of you to try to coach somebody, especially breakthrough transformational coaching. It's irresponsible for you to try if you're not really energetically connected to them. Now, when it comes to the inner work, the basic fundamental, the essence of transformation is a concept that we call reframing. And this is everything stands upon reframing, basically. Like everything we do, the outcome is to reframe something so that we can change the way that people are holding on to things. We can change the way they feel inside and then move forward from a different place. And the bottom line is you can't actually change a memory that you have from the past, but you can change the way you're holding on to the past, right? And that gives people a new way of looking at something old. And with a new perspective, you can do something different. But you're never in search for the right answer. You're just in search for something that feels better. I mean, we're all making up our own experience on this planet anyway. We might as well make it up in a way that feels good for us. And as a coach, it's really critical that you allow the client to come up with these reframes, because whoever has the problem also has the solution. Whoever's holding on to the dysfunction also has the answer, right? If they tied the knots, they're the ones that need to untie the knots. So don't try to untie other people's knots. You can be the facilitator and help guide them toward untying their own knots, but let the client be in charge as much as you possibly can. So that's the essence, really, of reframing. And when you understand the essence and you're in a state of rapport, the work that you can do is really magical. And I want to actually demonstrate a coaching exercise that is very simple. You'll all be able to take these 4 questions that I'm going to give you and use them on somebody else today if you want. The questions themselves are really powerful. And I want to demonstrate it with somebody on the line. If we have anybody who'd be willing to come on the line, what I'd like you to do is just raise your hand if you're willing to come on the line. And what I want is anybody that's sort of waffling back and forth on some decision that you might be having. Like, I don't know if I really want to do this or if I don't want to do it. So it's a yes or no decision on some choice that you have. And we're just going to walk through a very simple exercise and hopefully give you some clarity around what decision you have. So if you'd like to do that, please raise your hand in your control panel. Come on in, and it would really help. Hopefully, it'll help you. It'll give you some clarity around this decision, and it'll help us demonstrate this process. Okay, great. So David was the first hand up that I saw. David, I'm going to unmute your mic and okay, you're now unmuted. So why don't you say something and see if we can hear you, David. David, go ahead and try to say something. I'm not hearing you if you're talking. All right, I see that that you are unmuted on my end. You might be muted on your end, or just there might be some kind of disconnect here. I'll give you a few more moments here to try to figure this out. And while we're trying to get David's audio to work, if there's somebody else that would like to come in and help us demonstrate this coaching procedure, then please raise your hand in the control panel. Don't be shy. Remember, one of the most important things about becoming a coach is being willing to go through the processes, being willing to be coached. All right, David, I'm not able to hear you. So I'm gonna have to pick somebody else. All right, I'm gonna unmute. Yeah, it looks like you just went offline. Maybe you were trying to call in or something. So, oh, here you go. You just showed up again. All right, go ahead and try to talk again now, David. All right, if you're able to come in, then go ahead and speak in a little bit, David, and we'll see if we can get somebody else in.
Hello?
Hey, there you are. Awesome.
All right.
Great. Did you have to call back in or something?
I had to restart it to take off the privacy setting of the microphone.
Got it. Well, thank you for going through all of that and jumping on in. So what I'd like, David, is just let us know, what's, and I want this to be something real for you, um, to whatever your level of comfort is in sharing. But what's something that you've been kind of thinking about? Like, should I do this or should I not do this?
So for me, big challenge I'm having is marketing um, and getting clients. And what I'm thinking about doing, don't know what to do, is I already have like two websites up, and I have a book out, and I'm not really seeing the kind of clients that I want to. So I'm thinking, should I create another website that's more streamlined with like just one page, like a video up top, then explanation of services, and then just a real quick one page, like click on there, connect to a survey, and then sign up right there. So
Okay.
I'm thinking about making a third website essentially.
Okay, perfect. So let's run these questions by this. So this issue isn't really tied to your heart in any way. It's more strategic, but it's still, should I do this or should I not do this? So let's go through this strategic issue with these four questions. And we just call these the Cartesian coordinates, or I just call them the four questions. So the first question, David, is focused on building this third website. What will happen if you create that third website?
So what I think will happen is I will be able to share um, my services easier, because it'll be the first time that I've made a video, and it's typically easier to communicate my message with a video. I think that I would reach out to more people if I
Okay,
do that.
cool. So reach more people, do your first video, share your services. Awesome. All right. So the next question is, what won't happen if you create this third website? What won't happen?
Um, I feel like um, I won't attract and won't get the people that I'm looking for, because I have the second edition of my book coming out, and I really want to connect that with some kind of marketing plan. So I don't know what to do right now, but I feel like if I don't do that, it's not going to launch properly, and
Okay,
I'm not going to.
I think you're flipping the question. So my question is, what won't happen if you do the website?
Won't won't happen if
Yeah,
what won't happen
these questions are
if you
intentionally kind of scrambling. So if you put up this third website, what will not happen?
um I won't get I won't get um, additional clients. I won't get additional customers.
If you do put up the website, you won't get additional clients?
If I do put up the website, I I feel like if I do put up the website, then it will happen. If I don't, then it won't happen.
Right. But so those are two different questions. So the question I'm asking is, if you do put up the website, what won't happen?
It won't happen.
Yeah, it's intentionally kind of scrambling. So you have to think about it from a different perspective. If you do put up the website, what won't happen?
What won't happen? I won't be paying the extra money to do that. I'll have money to do something else.
If you do put up the website, you'll have money to do something else?
If I don't if I don't do the website, I'll have money to put it into some
Oh, but
other
if you
area.
see, this is why this question is so powerful and important. Is it's hard for you to even contemplate the question I'm asking, and that's why it's such a good coaching question, right? If you do put up the website, what will not happen?
What will not happen? What will not happen? Not happen.
Right. What things won't happen if you do put up that website?
What won't happen if I do put up the website? I don't know what won't happen.
Okay.
I don't know.
We'll
It's a
just
question mark. It's a big
that's
question mark.
exactly what I'll put. I'll just put a question mark there. And we might need to come back to this and we might not. We'll see. So the next question is, what will happen if you don't put up the website?
So I think that's what I was getting at before.
Yes.
So
Don't put up the website, what things will happen?
if I don't put up the website, what will happen if you don't? Yeah, so that's what I was saying before. I'll have extra money to do something else.
Okay, perfect. So you have extra money. Anything else?
I won't feel like I'm making progress.
If you don't put up the website, you won't feel like you're making progress?
Yeah, I need to take some action, and I don't know.
So just to put it in the phrase of the question, so if you don't put up the website, you will feel like you're not making progress, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so you feel like you're not taking action, not making progress. All right. Anything else? What will happen if you don't put up the website? Or does that feel complete?
I mean, yeah, that's basically it.
Okay.
I don't have a feeling of progress, and I feel like I'm in stagnation. It's not really going anywhere, and this isn't going to move unless I, take an action. That's kind of how I feel about it.
Okay. Perfect. And then next question is the double negative. What won't happen if you don't put up the website? So you don't put up the website, what won't happen?
Don't put up the website. What won't happen? Don't put up the website. What won't happen? Don't put up the website. What won't happen? It won't be. Don't put. I don't know. I think that I would just feel like what won't happen if I don't do it?
Yeah, if you don't do it, what won't happen?
No, I'm not going to be able to. I'll have to work harder in my 9 to 5. I won't have the business won't be profitable.
Okay.
It's kind of how it works.
Yep. And you said earlier, you kind of alluded to it just there, but you won't get any new clients, right? You won't get more new clients.
Yeah. I won't get any new clients. I have to work harder at my 9 to 5 job. It's going to take longer for me to, eventually transition to this being a bigger part of my income and, my service to other people. I think that what you've been saying is pretty correct in terms of, doing a lot of preparing and admin stuff, and I need to do more revenue generating activities, and this is just going to prolong the the process. Gonna have to wait more to have the success that I want.
Awesome. So as you think of the answers to these 4 sets of questions, uh, including the question mark of what won't happen if you do, I think that's significant actually that you didn't have an answer there. What do you think makes sense to put up this website or not?
I think I think I think it makes sense to do it, um, because you know it's just like it makes me feel like I'm making progress, even though I'm gonna have to, you know, get the money from a loan, or some kind of financing, quick maybe like a quick financing to do that,
Right.
or I have to work harder to get that money. I think that it's worth it to kind of keep trying to move forward
Right.
uh, in the passion that I have for this.
Awesome. So first of all, thank you for going through this exercise. And I think the significant piece here,
Are you there?
yeah. Can you not hear me anymore? Can if hopefully my audio didn't go out. If you guys can still hear me, can you raise your hand if anybody else can still hear me? Okay, great. So
I can.
okay, so other people are saying they can hear me. David, are you able to hear me now?
I'm able to hear you now. I
Okay,
wasn't
perfect.
before, but now I
That's all
can.
right. So the significant piece here is that you had a lot more energy, right? When you were thinking about the website before, it's really easy to think about the money that it's going to take and what if it doesn't work and what have you. But you had a lot more energy when you were talking about being stagnated, right? Feeling like you're not taking action. You got to work harder on your 9 to 5 job. That's a bigger reason to do the website than if it fails or if you've got to spend a little bit of extra money, right? Now, first of all, in order to put up a website, you shouldn't have to go out and get any significant loan. And if you are spending a lot of money to put up a website, then I don't think you're not creating an effective website. And I don't want you to spend a bunch of money that you don't have to spend. That's beyond the scope of this particular call and this exercise. But you shouldn't need to put out a significant amount of money in order to put up a website. But the point here is, we need to make decisions based on the things that matter the most to us. And it sounds to me like what matters the most to you is this feeling of stagnation and not taking action and what that means and just prolonging the process, right? And even if this website doesn't work, at least it's a step in the right direction. And you might learn lessons and you might have to do another website. You might have to shift the video or whatever, but at least you're not going to be staying stagnant. And at least you can look at yourself in the mirror and say you're trying, right? That's what I heard as you were answering these questions. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
Awesome. So again, thank you very much. I appreciate you walking through this exercise with us. It's not easy a lot of times for people to do some kind of coaching exercise like this in front of people that they don't know or in front of their peers. So I appreciate that, David, for coming on in. So I want to just debrief this exercise just real quick. The one of the things that we do in transformational coaching is that we scramble the brain because the brain is holding on to things in a certain way. And unless you scramble it and cause it to look at things another way, it's just going to hold on to the original perspective. And the original perspective is where the problem is. So we need to shift, we need to kind of massage the perspective, and that's what these 4 questions do for people is it causes them to think about things in a way that they've never thought about it before. And it's really easy for us to make decisions based on surface level intellectual evidence versus what's really important to you in your heart. And so when you do this exercise, you'll usually get some form of like division between head and heart. And the more that we make our choices based on our heart, the happier we're going to be. And generally, the more successful we are actually going to be. So if you take these questions and use them with somebody or have them use them with you, you can have some serious transformational thoughts and make some decisions or be more committed to certain decisions. But please don't just think of these questions to yourself and try to answer them yourself, because you're not going to get anywhere near the outcome as if somebody else were to answer or ask the questions of you. So because of the time of the webinar, I know we've already been going well over an hour here. You know, if it was up to me, I'd love to be on this webinar for 8 hours and go through so many more inner exercise or inner work exercises. We don't have the time to do that, but I just want to tell you about some of the things that NLP teaches you how to do. There's a process called anchoring, which is where we can teach people and we can learn ourselves how to create any emotional state that we want. It's literally like being able to create a button on your body for confidence or peace or excitement or whatever it is that you want to feel in any given moment. We break down the art of using metaphors, which is the best way to coach, bar none, across the board. There's an exercise of expanded awareness where you really get to open people up to the solutions that they're not thinking about, which is what I was just alluding to. The reframing, you go deeper in reframing from multiple different angles. It's very, very powerful piece, the reframing piece. Eliminating guilt and shame. Most people are walking around with stuck guilt or stuck shame inside their body, and that's never a positive thing. There's a lot of values work that we do, helping people identify what's actually important to them and teaching them how to make the decisions in their life based on what's important to them and not just based on what their mind thinks or based on fear. A painful thought reframe exercise is another way to remove any kind of painful energy that's stuck inside of people. We do environments work where you take a look at all the environments that you have around you, the environments that you're creating, what the tolerations are, you know, how it's affecting you in your life, and how to change the environments that support you toward a better life, a better experience on the planet. This is my favorite process in coaching in the entire world, and it's called timeline therapy. And this is the exercise that gave me my biggest breakthrough before I even really got into the personal development world very deeply. And that's like for me and my experience, that's like my baby. That is the one that shifted everything for me. And it's a very powerful, profound visualization type exercise that takes anywhere between 10 and 20 minutes generally. And it helps people reframe the biggest limiting beliefs that they've ever had in their life. And our limiting beliefs are always going to manifest into our reality. So being able to change people's limiting beliefs is really the core of transformational work. For me, I had a limiting belief that I wasn't good enough. And because I didn't think I was good enough, I wasn't going to be successful. People didn't like me. People didn't want to hear what I had to say. And that's what was operating in my life until I was 30 years old. And I got this reframe. It's actually a little bit older than that. And I went through that process and had this reframing. And that's what shifted my entire energy, caused my wife to ask what happened to me and my friends, etc. So that's the core of belief work. There's another exercise of releasing emotional pain. It's a 5-step process to clear grief and a lot of other things that people have stuck inside of them. There's a parts integration exercise where instead of like what David had is, should I do this or should I not do this? Parts integration really helps when people are thinking about 2 or more different options. Like, should I go to this college or should I go to that college, right? Or should I go into this industry or that industry? And it's a way to remove any of the conflict inside. We do a lot of work with strategies, which is how we create the habits and the behavior patterns that we have and change the behavior patterns. Superconductivity is an exercise that helps uncover gifts and wisdom and lessons and learnings from a higher source of your being, which is so profound. We do work with how to quickly change your emotional states from one thing to another. There's a process where you can actually get rid of phobias. And we're talking about phobias like being afraid of spiders, being afraid of heights, being afraid of certain things like that. And there's a process, or it's really a collection of processes that we just call sleight of mouth. It's how to do linguistic magic. That's really what it is, because when you understand these things, you understand the way the brain works, and you have these tools and these exercises. There's really a lot of magic that you can do in your own life and for other people. And I have a certification course that I want to tell you about. If any of this is really resonating with you and you want to learn some of these skills and you want to have that ability to be a deep transformational coach, I'm going to tell you about a certification program that's coming up in a little bit. But before, I want to just share with you a few stories of some people that have gone through this process in this particular program. Lizandra is somebody who wasn't into coaching whatsoever. She didn't know about coaching. She'd never had a coach. And she just refers to this whole process as a breakthrough experience that just has to be felt, basically, right? And she is now such a transformational force in the world. She's a coach. She's helping other people transform lives. And she just got into this world about a year ago, right? And the things that she's doing now are just mind blowing. I couldn't be more proud of her. She says you'll walk away full of knowledge and just live in the confidence in the work. Billy Council is somebody who is again, he's another guy that was relatively new in the coaching world, and the work that he does now is amazing. He does a lot of prison ministry where he goes in and talks to young folks or older folks that have made choices that have gotten them behind bars, and he really speaks into them. And this uh, neuro linguistic programming has given him a set of tools that has set him apart. I mean, you imagine the prison industry where people are locked up and they're restricted, and basically, months or years or decades later, they're supposed to come out and then just be reformed, right? Where Billy's able to go in and help these people understand why they have the anger in the first place, why they have the urges and the temptations, and he can help remove those temptations, help remove the anger, help clear a lot of the beliefs, etc., so that people can actually change from the inside out. And Billy says, I won't read this whole thing, but Billy basically said, I didn't have a whole lot of money to do this thing. I showed up to really do the work on myself that I couldn't afford a coach to do the private work with. And this bottom paragraph I want to read to you. He says, I went to get 5 days of personal coaching on my own stuff and ended up lighting myself on fire and lit a bunch of other people on fire in the process. I invested some time and money, and in 5 months, I will have gotten a full return on that investment. He says, I got more time back and an opportunity to do this amazing thing, and he's referring to coaching. He said ECCP was one for the books, and it confirmed that he is not who he has been pretending to be. The work that comes out, or the transformation that comes out of this certification program is, I mean, it's really beyond words, and the breakthroughs that we see in people and from people are just amazing. Patricia Gross talks about the importance of being around other coaches, right? And you'll end each day feeling exhilarated and ready to move forward. And she says, you've got to be in the company of confident and capable coaches. And I like the very first line up there. She talks about this being an art of coaching. And I totally agree with that. It's not a science, it's more of an art. And that's why it requires an immersion process, right? You've got to really focus on experiential learning, and you've got to practice. Kelly Robbins says she's addicted to seeing people's lives transform in front of her eyes. Linda says she feels like she has mad skills now, and she's a part of this ECCP family and tribe. And Kelly Hope is another one that wasn't in the personal development world whatsoever. She was just in the corporate world. She wasn't really in touch with emotions or anything like that. And she's in Ireland, and she just felt this intuitive pull to travel 5,000 miles and go get this certification. She really didn't know why, and now she's one of the most brilliant coaches that I've seen. And again, this is just a year later as well, and the the transformation personally that she found is just incredible. She says to say it's a life changer is an absolute understatement. So the bottom line is, as I was saying earlier, coaches need confidence. You need certainty. You need to have exercises that you can follow for people. You need a framework that you can follow, and you need mastery on all levels. And when you can be a very powerful coach, now you're going to be magnetic. And one of the reasons is because you will be so leveraged in what you can do for other people that it's no longer an option not to go out and help people. When you know what your hands can do, you won't sit behind these surface level obstacles of I don't know how to do social media, or I don't know how to put up a website, or I don't know how to do sales, and I don't know how to do marketing, because your drive to change people's lives, because the skills that you now know you have, is going to be so much bigger than any of the obstacles that are in your way. So that's another reason why so many coaches fail, is because they succumb to the intellectual problems around sales and marketing, and they don't have this deep heart-driven desire to change lives that comes from experience, because they've already done it. They've been through the work. They've seen people's lives transform with them in their hands, in their grasp, and it's not okay for them not to get that message and that ability out to more people in the world. So your level of drive will be so much higher than your level of resistance. And that's one of the reasons that so many coaches quit as well, is because they never really fully get tap rooted into their abilities. And it's because they don't spend enough time getting the mastery that will provide all of that. And then, you guys, sales and marketing is not that difficult. Sales and marketing is actually quite simple when you do it the right way. It's not necessarily easy because there's emotions involved, but it's actually simple when you do it the right way. But it is almost useless if you don't have the level of confidence and certainty in your own abilities, especially when we're talking about transformational coaching. So if any of you are interested in more information around this program, I'll give you just a few of the details, and then we'll invite you to jump on a phone call with us. It's 40 plus hours of in-room instruction. It's deep dive. It's full immersion. You're going to learn in 3 different ways. You're going to learn the information. You're going to see me do demos with people up in front of the room. Then you're going to practice with a buddy, and that practice will be both ways, you as the coach and you getting coached. That's why Lizandra said it was a transformational experience. That's why Kelly said it was life-changing. That's why these people, Billy and all these other people, said it was such a shifting experience for them personally, because they were in the room working on their own transformation for 5 straight days. How can you possibly come out of that room the same way you walked into it? It's impossible. And so that's the level of confidence and certainty and mastery and leverage, and realize I got to get this out. I got to get this out to people. And when I said I was ignorance on fire, that's why I was on fire, is because I knew what I had in my hands, and I knew that people needed it. And I was just willing to take ignorant action until I could make something work, right? But without that level of drive, it's going to be very difficult. You'll get 2 coaching certifications, one around the Ignite framework that I teach, and the other one will be a neuro-linguistic programming breakthrough coaching certification you can hang on the wall. It's very helpful for people that ask where you got your certification from, for you to actually have something, to show them that lets them know that you're a master on some level, right? And we do these courses once every 6 months or so. The next one is early or mid-July, rather, July 11th through the 15th. It's in Southern California. If you're interested in doing this, let me tell you what you're going to, what we'll cover. And I'm just going to go over this from a very high level perspective. We're going to go much deeper in all of this: how the brain learns, how it develops, the 4 stages of learning, communicating with the unconscious mind, because you really have to understand human behavior and neurological patterns, right? We're going to go deeper into meta programs, meaning filters, strategies. We'll talk about your language and how restrictive but how empowering language could be, how disempowering it usually is for most people, and how empowering it could be. We'll talk about what creates commitment at the unconscious level. We'll go through all the intangibles of coaching, not necessarily the neurolinguistic stuff, but how do you set up appointments, and how do you keep track of your clients' progress and all that kind of stuff. And beyond the certification, what I really want for you is I want you to feel like you found your superpower. And when you find that, I want you to learn how to grow your business the right way, how to increase your income, how to have more personal freedom emotionally, time-wise, financially, right? And how to better help the people that you were put on this planet to help, and give you leverage and a step up on the 95% of the coaches in this industry who are not going to do this work. What I really want you to understand is that you absolutely can do this if you're willing to put in the time, you're willing to put in the effort, you're willing to become a master at the coaching skills. I promise you, you'll then feel like sales and marketing is an obligation. You'll feel like it's much more simple, and you'll be coming from a more deep-rooted place. So if this is speaking to you, we've got a bunch of bonuses on top of this program. You get 12-month access to a monthly coaching program where I talk about skill sets as well as marketing stuff. You get enrollment into this. For you would end up being like a sharpening of your tools introduction coaching program that'll be online after ECCP. You'll get access to my marketing program. I did an information product. It's basically an A to Z product. It's called the Full-Time Coach Project. It's A to Z marketing, social media, pricing your programs, titling your programs, developing your programs, more on how to get clarity on your seeker, who it is that you are. Everything that I've been talking about from a marketing perspective and more is in the Full-Time Coach Project. And it's an audio program. It's an information program that you get access to immediately. You can go through that as quickly as you want to, so that you can learn the business side of coaching as well. The ECCP program is 5 days of skill set mastery. We'll talk a little bit about business, but we're not going to get into squeeze pages, websites, email marketing. None of that stuff is in the ECCP program, but all of that stuff is in the Full-Time Coach Project. So you really get both aspects there: how to be a great coach and how to market your coaching business. For the first 10 people, I'll give you a private one-on-one session with me as well. I'll help you in any way that I possibly can, whether it's internal stuff, external stuff, marketing, whatever, sales. And I just want to help you, further your journey as much as I possibly can. So the investment on this program, the value is close to $10,000 when you add up all the stuff. The investment is just under $3,996. We do have payment plans available for the first 10 people that jump in. You can save $500 if you pay in full and get it for less than $3,500. But I don't want you to decide right now to pay for the program if it's speaking to you. We got to make sure it's a good fit. So the next steps are, there's an application to fill out. That application is on that website that's on the screen now. I'm going to type it in to the chat box and send it to all of you, so you can just click on it. It's at elitecoachinguniversity.com/ECCP-app. And that will take you to a very short survey. There's 4 quick questions about who you are and what it is that your goals are, etc. And then we will get on the phone with you and do a short interview just to make sure it's a good fit, right? And if it's a good fit, then we can take the next steps and get you registered. And if it's not a good fit, we'll tell you what we think you should be doing instead if this isn't it. And, we'll just help support you in any way that we possibly can. So we've been on this webinar for an hour and a half, you guys. You've all been here for a long, long time, and I appreciate the time that you've spent. I hope you've gotten a lot out of it. I wanted this webinar to be truthful for you. I wanted it to give you the steps that you actually need to take so that you don't just fall prey to all these marketing tactics out there. And again, I'm not trying to disparage anybody, but I'm telling you, I know what works and I know what doesn't work. And when you jump out there and you just try to learn how to market your business so that you can bring money in, you're going in the wrong order. You've got to have the level of ability and skill set and mastery that puts you in a situation where people will trust you, people will be magnetically attracted to you, people will follow you, and you've got to be able to show them that you can actually help them in whatever area you want to help people. You can help them transform their lives. So if this is exciting to you, if you've wanted to have these kinds of skill sets to be a transformational agent on the planet, and this is the right time for you, then jump on that website, fill out the application, and we'll get on the phone with you sometime soon. One of our representatives will get on the phone with you, and we'll help you decide, what your next steps are. So with that, everyone, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your attention. I honor you for making the choice to want to be a transformational coach, whatever that looks like for you. If we can support you in that journey, then fantastic. If you choose to go elsewhere, then fantastic, right? But don't make your decision on whether you should master your skills as a coach or not. The only decision you should make is where are you going to go to master your skills as a coach. We'd love to be there to support you, or we'd love to help usher you to a better place that's a better fit for you, if that's what ultimately is best. So with that, everyone, again, my name is Sean Smith. Make sure that you pay attention to the things that we continue to send out. We'll send out videos and audios and articles and all that stuff to help continue giving you the skills to be a better coach and giving you tools to build a bigger business. Take care, everyone. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you real soon.